we're going to talk about graphing using intercepts today. So the first thing we need to talk about is what is an intercept, okay? If we're going to graph with intercepts, we need to know what an intercept is. So an intercept, we have two kinds of intercepts. We have x-intercept and we have y-intercept. And these are just places where the graph crosses the axis, okay? So the x-intercept is going to be where the line crosses the x-axis. And remember, when I'm talking about the axis, I'm on a coordinate plane here, something like this. This is my x and this is my y, okay? So the x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept, I bet you could guess, is where it crosses the y-axis. So for example, let's say, I'm going to put another little coordinate plane here. Let's say I have this coordinate plane, okay? And I'm going to put a line on here. Let's see, I think I'll have it go this way. All right, here is my line. Okay, this line has two intercepts, okay? It crosses the x-axis here, so that is my x-intercept. And then it crosses the y-axis here, so that is my y-intercept. Now, something special happens at these intercepts, okay? And this is really important for you to understand and remember, because it's going to help us as we calculate these intercepts. As you look at these, at every x-intercept, every time that graph crosses the x-axis, something special happens with y. That is that y is always 0, okay? Whatever that point is, let's say this was the point, it was crossing at 2, well then it would be 2, 0, because at the x-intercept, y is always 0. Well, we can turn that around then and say, well then at every y-intercept, can you guess what's always 0? I bet you guessed it's x. Okay, so we're going to kind of use that thought process to calculate some intercepts so that we can easily graph the line, because remember, technically we only need 2 points to graph a line. So if we can find 2 points, and if those points happen to be the 2 intercepts, then what we can do is we can use those 2 points, we can connect them, and we have our line. So let me give you an example of an equation, and let's see if we can't find the intercepts for that equation, okay? Let's start with 2x plus 7y equals 28. And so what I want to do is find the x and the y intercepts of this line. Okay? So to find the x and the y intercepts of the line, what I want to do is I want to plug in 0, okay, to find the x-intercept. Remember what we said, okay? The x-intercept, y is always 0. So what I want to do to find the x-intercept is I want to plug in 0 for y, and then I want to solve for x. Okay? So let's try that. Let's come in our equation. I'm going to plug in 0 for this y. So this y I'm going to replace with 0. So watch what happens. I have 2x plus 7 times 0 equals 28. So if my thinking is correct here, because every time it crosses the x-axis, the y is 0, then I can solve this equation, and we've done a lot with solving equation. I can solve that equation for x And then what I'll have is where it crosses the x-axis. So let's see. So 2x, 7 times 0 is 0, equals 28. Okay? 2x plus 0, so that goes away. So I have 2x equals 28. And so because x is being multiplied by 2, what I want to do is divide by 2 to get rid of it. And what I'm left with is x equals 14. Okay? So what this means is that on my graph, okay, if I had this graph, let's see. You can't see that. All the way out to 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I know that that line, whatever else it's doing, it is crossing the x-axis at 14. Okay? All right, let's move on to the y-intercept then. Okay? So if I find the x-intercept by plugging in 0 for y and solving for x, then I'm going to kind of do the opposite here to find the y-intercept. Okay? I'm going to scroll up here just a minute. So to find the y-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for x, and this time I'm going to solve for y. Okay? Same concept, same equation. The difference now is, and let me rewrite this equation here for you. Remember, it was 2x plus 7y equals 28. I plugged in a 0 before for y, but now to find the y-intercept, I'm going to plug in a 0 for this x, and I'm going to solve it for y. Okay? So I have 2 times 0 plus 7y equals 28. Okay? Of course, 2 times 0 is 0. And that 0 added to anything kind of just goes away. So now if 7y equals 28, how do I get y by itself? Well, I divide by 7. And I get y equals 4. Okay? So again, over here back to my graph, 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's crossing the y-axis at 4. Okay, so now I've got these two intercepts, x equals 14 and y equals 4, that tell me this is where they cross the axis, which tells me that what I can do, if I can get my ruler on here past my camera, I'll connect it off here to the side and I'll come back. I'm just going to connect these two points, and there is my line. Okay? So let me give you one to try. Before you actually graph, I want you to see if you can simply find the intercepts here of this equation. Let's try 3x minus 4y equals 12. Okay? Here, I want you to find the x and y intercepts of this equation. Okay? So let's take a minute, do this on your paper, and then we'll come back and we'll check to make sure you've done it correctly. Okay, so I hope you've taken the time to find your x and y intercepts here. So what I want to do, I'm going to run through this one with you. Let's do the x-intercept first, and then of course we'll do the y-intercept. Okay, the x-intercept is when y equals 0. So I'm going to take that same equation and plug in 0 for y. So I have 3x minus 0 equals 12, and of course 3x equals 12. So if I divide both sides by 3, I get x equals 4, okay? Coincidentally, it's the same intercept we had. Oh no, that was the y, wasn't it? Okay, let's do the y-intercept now. So again, for the y-intercept, I'm going to let x be 0. Okay, so I have 3, it's not x, it's 0. Again, I'm coming back to the same equation each time. Minus 4y equals 12. Okay, 3 times 0 is, of course, 0. So I have 0 minus 4y equals 12. So negative 4y equals 12. Divide that by negative 4. And I have y equals negative 3. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do now is take just a minute and I want you to graph this line. Graph the line 3x minus 4y equals 12 using intercepts. So you just found the intercepts, so what I'm asking you to do is to use those intercepts to graph that line, okay? So take just a minute, do this one on your paper, then we'll come back together and we'll do it together. Okay, so I hope you have taken some time to graph this, and I'm going to leave the intercepts right above here. So when we calculated the intercepts, we found that the x-intercept was 4, and the y-intercept is negative 3. So what that means is the point 4, 0 and 0, negative 3 are 2 points on my line, okay? So what I'm going to do, let me just put my axis on here. So I'm crossing the x-axis at 4. Okay, this is my x-intercept, that's 4, 0. And I'm crossing the y-intercept. This time I've gone down. 1, 2, and 3. This is 0, negative 3. So what I want to do is just connect these 2 points. Okay, and here is my line. So this is the line 3x minus 4y equals 12, and it's graphed. Okay? Okay, so I'd like to do one more example with you. I want you to think about the equation here, and what I'd like for you to do is to tell me to graph it using the intercepts here, okay? So if you'll take just a minute and graph this, remember the first thing you'll have to do is find the intercepts, okay? Remember x-intercept y is 0, y-intercept x is 0, and then what I'd like you to do is go ahead and put that on a graph and graph it, and then we'll come back together and check it. Okay, so hopefully you've had some time to graph this. So what I'm going to do is find first the x-intercept, which of course is when y is 0. So that would be, 4x plus 8 times y equals 24. Okay. 8 times 0, of course, is 0, so I end up with 4x equals 24. Divide both sides by 4, and you get x equals 6. Okay, so again, this point is 6, 0. Now for the y-intercept, let me switch colors for you here so we can make a little bit of a distinction. For the y-intercept, I'm going to let x be 0, so it's 4 times 0 plus 8y equals 24. Okay, so 4 times 0, of course, that's gone, so I have 8y equals 24 divided by 8. So I have y equals 24 divided by 8 would be 3. There's my y-intercept. Now I want to take just a minute. A lot of people call this, when when your equation is in, this is called standard form because it's ax plus by equals c. A lot of people will call this cover-up method because what they do is they find the intercepts. They set ax equal to c, okay, and cover up that by part. Let me try to use my pen here. Might be a little. So ax equals c in my equation, that would be 4x equals 24, and they find that intercept, and then they do by, they cover up the ax part and do by equals c, and so that would be this part, by, which is 8y equals c, and they solve it from there. You're doing the same thing when you plug in 0 for your intercept here, okay? All right, let's graph them. I have 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I have 0, 1, 2, 3. That's my y-intercept. And now I just want to connect these 2 points here. I like using a straight edge so my line is nice and clean, straight through the points. Ah, you can't see it, I'm sorry. So again, this is my 6, 0 and my 0, 3. Okay, and this of course is the line 4x plus 8y equals 24. Okay, one more thing you need to be able to do, and that is to actually look at a graph and find the intercepts. Okay, so for example, let's say I have a graph that looks like this. Okay, and I'm gonna just put some marks here for you. So let's say my line, let's go some negatives here. All right, so let's say this was my line, and I want you to tell me, well, it'd be nice if you could see it, right? What the intercepts are. So as you look at this, what you have to do is you have to find where they're crossing. Okay, so if I look at this graph, the x-axis, it's crossing at 1, 2, -3, right? So if you think about, my points are written as x, y, okay? So my intercept is going to be -3, and it doesn't go up or down any, so it's -3, 0. And of course we know that at the x-intercept, the y value is 0, okay? Same thought process for the y, and these actually have the same intercept. So the x this time is 0, and we go down to 3 for the y, okay? So let me give you one to try, and then we'll go over it. Okay, so if this is my graph, what I'd like for you to do is to identify both the x and the y-intercept just by looking at that graph. Tell me where they're crossing the axis, but give it to me in coordinate form, okay? Give it to me as a point. And I'll give you just a second to do that, and then we'll come back together. So hopefully you've had a little time to go over this one. So just looking, looks like this one crosses the x-axis at -2, right? So my x-intercept would be -2, 0, and then it looks like it crosses at 1, 2, 3, 4 on the y-axis. So my y-intercept would be 0, 4, okay? -2, 0, and 0, 4. Okay? And that's all there is with intercepts.